Throughout the history of mankind spanning tens of thousands of years, countless stories of the supernatural have been told. And it is impossible to know whether they are real or fictitious. The purpose of these stories is varied, ranging from educating people to aspire to the sublime amidst the difficult life, to simply entertaining or frightening them. One of the most mysterious stories is that of werewolves. Along with tales of ghosts, saints, demons, and devils from various cultures, to this day, science has not been able to prove whether werewolves truly exist or not. Despite the many clear traces left by them over the centuries, in today's video, let us explore the origin and chilling stories of werewolves. The first written records of werewolves date back to ancient Rome, in the writings of Petronius, a former senior who once ascended to the throne in Western Rome. Stories of this half-human, half-animal species have been prevalent throughout Europe since the Middle Ages. Werewolves were described as having a human form during the day, but at night, especially during a full moon, their bodies would transform. Their nails would grow like those of dogs, their bodies would be covered in fur, and their fingers and toes would become sharper. After transforming, they would hunt for prey, often humans and livestock, to feed on. The bites of werewolves were said to be incurable and could turn the victim into a werewolf like them. The cause of a person turning into a werewolf could be due to a curse or being bitten by another werewolf. Thus, many stories related to werewolves have been woven together over generations. One of the most well-known stories about the origin of werewolves comes from China. Legend has it that a long time ago, humans lived near large forests and rivers to facilitate hunting and water collection. In one village, a young man named Mac Tien lived alone, having been orphaned since childhood and cared for by the villagers who loved him. Every day, Mac Tien would go into the forest to hunt for food, and life in the village was peaceful. One day, the villagers caught a mother wolf and her 4 cubs. And everyone was happy because the 5 wolves would make a great feast for the small village. However, the mother wolf was very fierce and difficult to control, and it took 4 or 5 men to subdue her before they could kill her. The wolf cubs saw their mother die and immediately howled sorrowfully, but they soon accepted the same fate. That night, under the flickering firelight, the villagers held a feast to celebrate their victory. Mac Tien also participated in the battle and now sat next to everyone enjoying the fruits of their labor. Suddenly, from a corner of the village, there was a loud, desperate scream from a woman. The villagers rushed over and found her lying dead in a pool of blood, her neck deeply bitten. Knowing that something was amiss, the village chief ordered all men to take up arms and women and children to lock themselves in their homes. Suddenly, a long, vicious howl came from under the bed, and it was a male wolf, the father of the 4 cubs that had been killed by the humans. Now he led the pack of wolves to seek revenge. That night, dozens of wolves rushed into the village, causing chaos and carnage. The wolves' eyesight was better in the dark, making humans no match for them. It was an extremely gruesome scene. Mac Tien was the only one who remained calm at this moment. His many years of experience in hunting in the forest helped him realize that if he wanted to deal with this wolf pack, he had to handle the alpha wolf. In the dim light, Mac Tien recognized the alpha wolf with its extremely large and powerful body. He grabbed a stick and threw it straight at its head. The throw only stunned the wolf, and it immediately realized Mac Tien's presence and rushed to bite him. Mac Tien quickly dodged the deadly bites but could not avoid its claws. With all his strength, Mac Tien pushed the wolf away and quickly grabbed the stick he had used for defense. The wolf attacked again, but Mac Tien avoided it and delivered a fatal blow to its head, killing it instantly. The other wolves, seeing their leader defeated, became frightened and disoriented, and were no match for the villagers. They fled back into the forest. A few days later, after everything had settled down, Mac Tien suggested to the village to go into the forest and hunt down the entire wolf. Scores of young men went into the forest, setting traps everywhere. The wolves, without their leader, became directionless and quickly fell into the traps and were killed, including the wolf cubs, which could not escape. However, a new problem arose as the villagers began to contract a disease from those who had been bitten and scratched. They occasionally suffered from convulsions, foamed at the mouth, and sometimes their eyes closed and they made strange animal-like noises. Some people were worse off, crawling on all fours and howling like wolves. Faced with this serious situation, Mac Tien told the village chief to hang all those who were infected to prevent further spread. The village chief, listening to the advice, gathered the villagers and proposed this idea. But they vehemently opposed it, accusing Mac Tien of being heartless. But in the following days, the number of infected people kept increasing, and the villagers had no choice but to follow Mac Tien's method. All infected people were quickly hanged, but a man named Hoang Thien managed to escape. Previously, Hoang Thien also participated in killing wolves with the villagers and was accidentally bitten by a wolf and scratched his hand. When he learned that those bitten by the wolves would be hanged, he hid the fact that he was bitten. But at night, Hoang Thien began to transform into a wolf and started biting people. As the number of people turned into wolves increased, the villagers began to suspect Mac Tien and no longer trusted him. They tied him up and tortured him, eventually hanging him. But even after killing Mac Tien, the situation in the village did not improve. Many other villagers were bitten or killed. And the footprints on the ground clearly showed human feet, while the bite marks were from wolves. People began to suspect that there was a half-human, half-wolf species attacking them. But it was unclear whether it was Hoang Thien who had turned into a werewolf or Mac Tien, who had returned as a werewolf for revenge. No one knows for sure, but the villagers eventually left the village, and the legend of werewolves began. In fact, there have been many other pieces of evidence about werewolves in many countries around the world. In the 18th century, in the Gévaudan region of France, there were a series of cases related to wolves. In June 1764, a 14-year-old sheepherder disappeared while taking her sheep to graze in a dense forest. After a few days of searching, her body was found with severe bite marks, suspected to be from a wolf, or possibly a werewolf. Over the next 3 years, more than 100 people died in the Gévaudan region with similar bite marks. Large-scale hunts were carried out, and hundreds of wolves were killed. But in the end, it was still unclear whether the culprit was a human or a wolf or a werewolf. On June 19, 1767, a local hunter shot and killed a large animal, and the attack stopped since then. Witnesses described the creature that was killed as wolf-like, but with a strange head and three-colored red, white, and gray fur that hunters had never seen on wolves before. Many people took advantage of the mystery of werewolves and created more stories during the horrific 3 years in Gévaudan. Newspapers throughout France began to gather information and publish stories about werewolves, creating chilling illustrations of the species that immediately piqued public curiosity and became popular. The true story also happened in southern Spain in 1946. A boy named Marcos became an orphan after his mother died and had to live with his alcoholic father. His father married a stepmother who often beat the poor boy. Eventually, his heartless father sold him at a market, and Marcos had to live with a goat herder. Soon after, the goat herder passed away, and Marcos ran away to the mountains, where he stumbled upon a den of wolf cubs. Among the wolves, Marcos suddenly felt at home and experienced a happiness that the human world could not provide. He decided to stay with the wolf pack. At first, the mother wolf was wary of him, but then she realized that the boy was not a threat, so she let him stay. Marcos gradually adapted to the customs of the wolves, and during the winter, he took shelter in tree trunks in the forest, protected by the wolf pack from dangerous animals. But when Marcos was 19, he was rescued during a police manhunt in the forest, and they were surprised to find a young man who had forgotten how to speak human language, frequently barking and howling like a wolf. Spanish authorities tried every way to integrate Marcos back into human society. After decades, Marcos was 74 years old, but he still felt that life was not as happy as when he lived among the wolves. He often returned to the old place in the forest to find his wolf friends, but he could not find them anymore. The true story of Marcos, who was raised by wolves, became an inspiration for many films and works of art. The mysterious veil surrounding werewolves over many centuries still has not been lifted. Although many scientific experts have spoken out, confirming that a hybrid between humans and wolves cannot exist, it does not stop many people from searching for evidence about it. Humans and wolves have had a certain relationship since ancient times. We and wolves are often enemies competing for land and food. Later, wolves were domesticated and became pets in the house. However, it is still not possible to accurately answer whether there is a true hybrid species between humans and wolves, or whether wolf bites can turn people into werewolves. The mysterious story of werewolves still exists and is a great inspiration in contemporary art. Do you believe in werewolves? Leave a comment and let me know, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to support me. Goodbye and see you again.